Hey y'all, welcome to the T-Work podcast, hosted by Grant Banko and me, Adam Moreau. From entrepreneurs and athletes to the rat racers of corporate America and those who refuse to be put in a box, we want to share their stories and understand how they ended up where they are. Success and development come in many shapes and sizes. We want to hear about it all. So grab a drink and pull up a seat. Let's spill some tea and get to
Welcome back to T-Work Podcast. Today we have the Chief Viking Officer of NordicDudes, Gabriel Lindh, who is building a swim trunk company with his brother out of Sweden, and he also flies commercial airlines. Before I screw up anything else, though, I want to pass it to Gabriel. Thank you for joining us. Just give yourself your background, how you got to where you are today.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Really nice to be on here on the podcast. My name is Gabriel. I'm 32 years old. I'm a pilot and I've been working as a pilot for about 10 years. And I'm also currently starting a business called NordicDudes, where we're currently doing anti-chafe swim shorts. And I started about 10 years ago with flying planes or starting a flight school, and finished that after about 2 years. And then I just went into flying, no entrepreneurship, no business stuff, nothing like that. And we just started flying, and I, got into the aviation world and all that. But then I also started, I have very big legs, just like my brother. And we were on vacation, and I was visiting a friend in Australia, and we were going to do a walk from Coogee Beach to Bondi Beach, which is about a 45-minute walk. And it was about 38 degrees Celsius, which is about, I believe it's about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And we just did that walk, and I just wore normal swim shorts, and I started chafing really, really badly. It was horrible. It was burning so bad. And we got to Bondi Beach, and, just like, I need to get into the water and cool all this off. And when I went into the water, salt water came into, guess, the scratched skin, and it started burning even more. And it was just a horrible experience. And then when I came out, it was just like, oh, this sucks and all that. And then actually, I didn't really do anything about this until a couple of years later. But that was kind of the starting point of how we started NordicDudes, or the idea for it. And then I just kept flying after that. So I went back from Australia to Sweden, kept flying, and doing all that. And then a few years later, after been flying commercially for a couple of years, me and my brother decided let's do something about this, and that's how NordicDudes started. Yeah, so we kind of just kicked it off like that, and we didn't really have any e-commerce experience, anything like that at all. So what we started off doing was we want to test demand somehow, just to make sure that we don't spend a bunch of money and a bunch of time on building something that people don't really want. So what we did was we just created a list of people that we think are interested in this. So my brother does a lot of, I did ice hockey as well, but my brother is predominantly doing a lot of ice hockey. So he has a lot of friends who have big legs. So we asked him, like, do you have any problems like this? Are you chafing when you're going to the beach, or are you chafing when you're working out? Do you have any problems like that? And most people said, like, oh, we're not interested when we mentioned the idea. But there were some people who said yes, and I reached out to a couple of friends as well, and friends of friends and all that. So we created a list of people that we thought were interested, reached out to them, and then some of them said yes, most said no. One friend even asked me if I'm in a network marketing scheme or pyramid scheme, but he said no, and he still hasn't been interested. But we reached out to them, and some said yes, and that's how we got a couple of first pre-orders. So it ended up being a couple of $100 in pre-orders, and that's how we then kind of decided that, okay, it's maybe not confirmation that it's $1 million idea, but it's confirmation that there is some interest. So if we explore this a little bit further, then we might be able to turn it into something. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we build an email list as well. So we put all these people into an email list, and then, we do manual outreach. So we reach out to people on, friends. We talk about friends, we do the podcast thing. We do a little bit of ads, and just to get our email list growing, so we actually have a as big as possible customer base or a potential customer base, a lead space, when we actually launch, so we can send out emails to these people saying, okay, now we've launched our swim shorts. And that's kind of
So
the main idea.
so before we'll definitely dive more and more into the business side. Before we do that, how do you even get into flying commercial planes? Like, it's not easy to be like, okay, I want to fly planes. Did your family pilots? Like, how did you even get exposed to that?
It's a little bit unexpected, but my parents told me that we think, or they didn't just say one day, oh, we think you'd be a good pilot, but they said, maybe you should try, and because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I was maybe 21, and I was working as a garbage man in Sweden, and they were like, oh, maybe you'd be good as a pilot, just try it out, do the tests that you need to do to get into flight school, and see how it goes. And then I was like, I mean, might as well try it. And then I tried it, and I enjoyed it, and I thought it was fun, and I passed the exams, and that's how I ended up in flight school. And then I guess the old saying, the rest is history.
I need to ask an immediate follow-up here. What do you think was going through your parents' head when when their son is working as a garbage man, working in sanitation? They're like, you know what? This guy, he can fly planes. Like, what are your eyes really good? Like, what, or are they just like, nah, our son can't be picking up trash for a living, and they just had to find something that seemed cool.
Well, I think that I'm usually very calm. I have a problem with this. I think personally, no one has ever said that I have a problem with this, but I think I have a problem with when I record videos, and I'm like, feel like I'm super, oh, now I'm like all, amped up and all that, and then I record a video, and then when I record a video and look at myself, it's like, hello, yeah, my name is Gabriel. I feel so monotone, and I think that maybe some of that is where they kind of were like, oh, he's very calm usually, so maybe he would fit good as a pilot, and he's not, I mean, maybe not the smartest boy, but he is not stupid either, so maybe it would work. I don't know what they thought really, but they I managed to make it through the flight school and the exams, and yeah, and then I thought it was fun, so that's how it ended up.
So you were fully prepared to say, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to take it up to 32,000 feet today and should be a smooth ride down to Baltimore. We'll talk to you when we're in the air.
Honestly, I've done that a lot of times. Like that, especially if you haven't planned for, like, sometimes you just do it real quick, so you haven't really planned what you're going to say. You haven't looked up all the information you're supposed to look, so you look it up while you're talking. Then it becomes a lot like, so welcome on board, So, but yeah.
How long, like, is flight school, like the tests, everything? Like, how quickly can I be, like, if I was like today, I'm like, I want to become a pilot. How long would it take me?
So, because you guys are in the US, right? You're on the East Coast.
Yes.
Yeah. So in the US, it's a little bit different than what it is in Europe. In Europe, it actually takes 2 years. So you have to do, I think it's about the same amount of flying hours, but you have to do a lot of theoretical stuff. So in Sweden, you do, or in Europe in general, in EU, you do 14 exams. So it's all different kinds of subjects like principles of flight, weather, performance, human psychology, stuff like that. And then you have to write an exam on all that, and that's 14 exams. While in the US, it's just one exam. So you just do one exam, 75 questions, and then that's it. And then you just need to get
75 questions to fly a plane. That's so dumb.
Well, he did follow it up with, there is a number of flight hours that you have to have as well before you're allowed to get a job. So at least you're practicing flying.
yeah, exactly. So and since Sweden it took like 2 years, and I think in the US you can do it in like 6 months. So, but it's different laws, and it's different, aviation. administrations that, you know, working together. So I don't know really why it's that big of a difference, but that's how it is. So I did it first in Sweden, and then I just have my EU license, and then I had to go to the US, and then I converted my license there. But it's a lot easier to convert from the European one to the American one, because I only need to go in and do that one exam of 75 questions. Obviously, I studied before, but if you go from the US to Europe, you have to do all those 14 exams. And that, you know, that's, you probably need like a year to prepare for that. So that's, or 6 months at least. So I'm happy I did it the other way around, so from Europe to the US rather than US to Europe.
I might need to look into this, and so I can get some free flights out of this. Like just become a pilot so I have the access to get free flights so I can travel. Six
Yeah,
months
And
isn't bad.
it's you can, I mean, I'm talking now about like the commercial licenses. So that means the licenses that you need to get paid to fly. They obviously have like private licenses as well. So that's the private pilot license. So before those 14 exams in Sweden, you have to do a private pilot license, and it's the same in the US. But in the US, I don't really know exactly how it works with a private license, because since I had a private license in Europe, I could just convert it to the American one, while I couldn't do that with the actual commercial license. So that one I actually had to go in and do the exams. But private license you can do, then you can fly privately just for fun.
well, I don't know if this is good for me or bad for me in my fear of flying, which I think I feel worse. So, Gabriel, I am probably, I don't know, feel free to make fun of me. I don't even know the right way to phrase this. I probably take about 6 to 8 flights per month. So I fly a decent amount, right? I mean, that's not obviously not as much as you fly, but still a good amount compared to most people in the world. And no matter what, I just freak out. And I try to look at the physics of flying. I look at weather patterns. I look at turbulence maps. I try to study everything I can to feel better about it. And I just can't get over mid-air turbulence.
Actually, you know, mid-air turbulence is actually really, it's not, it feels bad, but the likelihood that the aircraft is actually going to break is really, really low. If you see like the wings shaking when you're looking at the window in turbulence, and you might see like going like really up and down, it's probably very far away from actually breaking anything. I think Boeing did like a test where they recorded, where they took both sides of the wing like this, and then they just folded them up like this, and they literally went, I think, from, they didn't touch, but they went like maybe this far up until the wings actually broke. And in a normal, you know, even if it's severe turbulence, you're far away from, you know, going to wings where they go up like this. So the likelihood that anything's going to break is very low. However, I don't know if that's really helping you with your fear of flying. I don't really know what to do about, you know, if you're scared of the turbulence. I don't really have a good tip there. I'm sorry.
No, I mean that's helpful. Like that's the stuff I look into is how are these things engineered? What are they actually made to handle? And right, the planes are designed to handle any more than they would ever experience in the real world environment. So they're forcing these terrible extreme results to see what if it can handle 25% of that in the most severe cases while you're flying. But
Yeah.
obviously, you deal with probably anything worse on a given day than I've experienced ever in my life with how many flights you've taken. So, how do you maybe going off the path of the podcast? I just want to know how you have dealt with some of these maybe stressful situations while you're flying, because I'm sure you've run into a couple where it's like, wow, this isn't the most comfortable situation I'm in right now.
The way I usually look, it's actually not just uh, exclusive to flying. I think you can apply this to pretty much anything that you find is difficult. But what I usually do is I think about it as just do one step at a time. Uh, and the way I do that is I think about what is the next possible step that I can take to make this situation a little bit better, or put myself in a little bit of a better position to solve this problem, or get out of this. And I find that usually helps me a lot, because then you don't think of it as a big, this massive big problem that I have right now, and oh my God, where am I going to start? What am I going to do? I don't know what to do. So if you just think about what is one small thing that I can do to just make this a little bit better, and then you're like, oh, but I could do, let's say you have an engine failure, right? And like the first thing is, okay, am I controlling the plane? Is the plane flying? And then, the next thing might be, okay, so engine is not working. Maybe we should check what is the problem with the actual engine. Are there any checklists associated? Probably there are. Do those checklists, and then you already start on a path to improving the situation. Then maybe the next one after that might be, okay, so maybe we should let ATC know. Do we have to go back to our origin airport? How's the weather at the origin airport? If we can't go back to the origin airport, are there any other airports around that we can go to? How's the weather there? Did we sustain any damage on the engine that could impact us? Do we have to land on the same runway? Might there be debris on the runway? So you start, now I've done it a couple of times, so I start thinking a little bit faster, and like already know some of the next steps. But if you have anything that's stressful, if it's in your car, if it's in your business, if it's, I don't know, if you're out sailing or something, then what is one little thing that I can do just to make this situation a little bit better? And then usually I find that it starts rolling. And so, okay, that's the first step, and then you kind of figure out, okay, I could do this as well, and then you start on a path to improving the situation. That's how I do it.
So Adam, just go into the cockpit and start checking off the checklist for the pilots. That's basically what I got from that.
Yeah,
I actually would probably do much better if I was in that situation. Like, I'm a big fan of communicative pilots because I feel like I'm a part of the process. That eases my stress significantly when the pilot constantly runs through, this is the plan, we're experiencing whatever. Even if I know that the pilot knows that we're going to experience turbulence when we get to Montgomery, Alabama, or that airspace or something like that. I'm like, okay, we know what we're doing. He knows what's ahead of us. We can find a new route. We can mess with our elevations, and there's a plan. Of course, I know the pilot always has a plan. I know we're not flying blind, but being a part of the process, even though I'm a passenger that can't make any real influence on the situation, it makes me feel good. So yes, Gabriel, what you're saying, I'm all on board with. I love the mindset, and 100% that applies to anything in life, right? Control the controllables, get a handle on the situation. What can you actually do each step of the way, and acknowledge who has influence over what's happening, right? Is it contacting ATC or air traffic control? Do you need to let them know what's going on? Can they offer help in the situation? So I guess some of it is even accepting your vulnerability and figuring out who can help you through these different things. Like me, I'm being vulnerable about my fear. You're a pilot, you have expertise in this space. So why wouldn't I just consult you about how I can deal with the stuff I'm struggling with?
Yeah, it's perfect. And obviously, the companies and all that, they give you, like, they have procedures and all that. So they put up like a procedure of how this specific failure is done, which also makes it, even the more structured it is and the more checklist like it is, the easier it is to follow. And then you do it so many times that it, as soon as it happens, you kind of know, okay, so you analyze the situation, and then you kind of know which path you have to take, and where you shouldn't go and what you shouldn't do, and then it kind of gets into your head, and then you get a pretty good understanding of it. But yeah, if, like, just that one step at a time is the best thing.
And I'll just throw in, as you can tell, Adam is one of those passengers that gives undivided attention to anybody that is making an announcement. So if you don't think anyone's listening to you, Gabriel, when you're on that speaker and you're saying or trying to find information, Adam's hearing every word of it. I do have a question that will not help Adam's fear of flying, but I'm curious from your perspective over the last couple years, and there's been more coverage of plane crashes or aerial crashes of aerial vehicles. In reality, is there actually more crashes happening in your opinion, or is it just the fact that there's more awareness because of social media, because of videos, because of news coverage? I'm just curious from your perspective.
I I think that it definitely social media has a big part of it, and you know, like people having access to, you know, cameras on their phones, which, you know, not that they maybe intentionally started to record a crash, but you know, they might just be filming some clouds and then all of a sudden something happens and they record an actual crash. But I don't know, if I haven't looked at specifically at the data, so I can't say the current data of what the number of air crashes are right now compared to how they were last year and the year before. But I don't think that there is more airplane crashes now than there are, you know, were maybe before. I could be wrong, but I also think that everything kind of has elevated a little bit after, you know, what happened with Boeing and all that, that they, you know, people got more interested in it, and that kind of led to more people, it being documented more and being more in the headlines. So I think that might have something to do with it, but I can't say if there's actually more crashes now than before. I need to look at, you know, what the actual data says.
The couple things that I've looked at would actually say the numbers are decreasing. So
Yeah,
it's a coverage thing. Who would have thought our media is sensationalizing different events? That's crazy. That's never happened before, right?
yeah.
If you guys are cool with it, I kind of want to pivot to the other line of work just for a little bit, and we'll see where conversation takes us. Gabriel, you right off the bat, you stole my initial question, which was going to be, were you a hockey player? Based on the thigh chafing issue, which I feel like might be the number one injury, quote unquote, to a hockey player because they all have the largest legs imaginable. So, but you answered that. You do have a bit of a hockey background, and I applaud you. You got started on your entrepreneurial journey just how most do. You find a problem, you think of a solution, and you just go all in on trying to make that problem a thing of the past. So I do want to, as I said, applaud you for that. Let's talk a little bit about dealing with this problem and you trying to solve it. So initially, it was just a personal thing, right? It was you and your brother, or maybe a couple others, just like, I have these big thighs and they chafe when I walk. So what made you think to actually do something about it from a swim shorts perspective?
So it's, I mean, I still like for me, to do something about it was actually, you know, the story that was in Australia, that was the initial start of it, where I started thinking about it. Then I really didn't do anything about it, but until a couple of years later. But I mean, I still have, even now when I'm out, you know, with my girlfriend walking in the city, it has nothing to do with swim show. It's just that I'm walking around in the city and I'm sweating, and we're walking the entire day, and I start chafing. So, you know, it's a problem that's ongoing for me, and the way we kind of, you know, wanted to solve it was just that we wanted, you know, kind of attack it in, because there are anti-chafe swim shorts already out there. There's someone who's already making these shorts. There's someone who's already, you know, I mean, there are already similar products out there. So we thought, what can we do differently? And that's when we got into this Viking, a Swedish kind of thing, to kind of put the problem on, not just solve the problem, but kind of do it in a fun way, and kind of add a little bit of a unique twist that's unique to us. So, you know, we're Swedish and we're Vikings, so that's why, oh, we could do that. And so we just centered everything pretty much around Viking related stuff and Nordic related stuff, and that's how we kind of attacked the problem. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of the main thing that we want to move forward with. And it kind of took a while. I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Alex Hormozy. He
Very
has like,
familiar.
he has this book, 100 million offers, and he we went through that book, and and we ended up creating a document. I think it was like 4,000 or 6,000 words of just ways that we can differentiate our business. And that was stuff from very obvious stuff like no chafing to creating amazing customer service, to making funny emails, to doing the packaging a little bit different, to doing the things like the chief Viking officer, small stuff like that. We just filled it up. We just brainstormed for a couple of weeks, just stuff that we could do to just make ourselves different and stand out. And one other thing is, like, we want to maybe donate something to charity or something like that, some profits like that. Stuff we haven't implemented yet, but stuff that we wrote down that we were like, oh, this is ways that we could stand out a little bit from the crowd.
So very much more from a branding perspective and building a brand instead of, I mean, yes, the product matters, but I mean, Alex Hormozy has been on record in the early days saying branding is stupid, and he admits this now. And now he realizes, oh, that I was wrong. Branding is everything.
Yeah.
And getting that realization and understanding that brand holds a lot of weight, that someone can't take away from you. Someone can copy a product, but they can't copy a brand technically.
Yeah. It's exactly like, just we want to solve a problem with the product and then build a brand around solving that problem with that product. And I think that in reality, unless you have something completely unique, which I think is difficult in the apparel industry, I think that you need to build some form of brand where you kind of create some form of community where people feel, connected to, and they feel like, oh, this, I feel like this is my kind of people. I like this, the message that this brand has, and all that. It's, I always, I use this as an example in some other podcasts, I think, as well, but it was, or maybe I posted it on my X, I don't remember, but it was the difference between just a normal white t-shirt and, let's say, a t-shirt from Polo Ralph Lauren. I mean, they're pretty much just the same t-shirts, right? But one is, let's say, 80, 90 bucks, and the other one is, let's say, 5, 10 bucks. And the difference in that price, even though the product might be exactly the same or it's the same quality, is just the brand. The big part of it, at least, is the brand that the company has built around that product or around itself. And that's kind of what, maybe not do exactly like Polo Ralph Lauren, but kind of what we want to do. We want to create like a brand where people can connect with and feel like they are, part of a community and a tribe.
I love the fact that you use the word community, because that's what my mind always goes to, especially with modern brands, is you are looking for like-minded people, or people that you identify with and you can be a part of something, whether it's be a part of change, be a part of growth, connection. The In our virtual world now that we live in, one of the easiest ways to connect with people is by sharing something in common, whether it's talking about it online, or if you see somebody that has the same thing. I'm sure we have all done it. I mean, even think about driving down the road and you see someone with the same car as you. You kind of get that like smile, or like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, same thing. Like the little things, like the Jeep wave and people who put their little ducks on people's Jeep. I think I drove by 2 Toyota Tacomas today. I drive a Toyota Tacoma, and I gave both the people a head nod, because it's like, heck yeah, like we're in this together. So I'm with that. And Gabriel, I think it would be cool even if you can take us through maybe some of that brand creation or community creation process that you've gone through, whether you and your brother have thought of mission statements or value statements, little things like that. Are there certain themes that you guys try to stick with or celebrate? And I'd love if you could just kind of take that away and give us some insight.
So the way we kind of just build our brand right now is through our newsletter. So we have a newsletter that's called the Weekly Pillage. So that's our, kind of Viking newsletter where we just share stories about building the business and just random Viking stuff. And one thing that, for example, we do to build their community is that we want to call our members of that newsletter the Vikings. So we very often, not every email, but we start very often an email with, hello, fellow Viking or something like that, because we wanted to, when someone reads this, it's like, we're Vikings, I'm part of a Viking community here. And then the way we do it is kind of that we create, Viking related jokes and so for example, we tell story. I have like this thing that I call like it's the squat test. It's just actually a thing that I did in the past just to see how comfortable pants and shorts were, which is literally just I stand up and just do a squat and then stand back up and just test how stretchy the pants or the shorts are. So that's something that we have as well that we haven't fully implemented yet, but we've had an email with it where we talk about like this is how you do the squat test, and then we have like Viking stuff too. So reach out your glorious arms and put them straight out like this, and then I don't remember the exact words of it, but it's like take your glorious muscular Viking arms and hold them straight out, and then put your legs parallel to each other on about hip width, and then just lower your fine bottom down to about 90 degrees, and then lift yourself up like a proud Viking, stuff like that. So we talk about that's our little squat test, and then we end usually with, and don't forget to create Wunjo, which is a runic script, which stands for happiness and joy, which is kind of what we want to create a little bit with our brand, just with the jokes and all that. Just want to create joy and happiness, and that's some of the stuff that we've done kind of to hopefully build a little bit of a community sense. Our community is not that big yet, but that's kind of what we're doing just to gather this tribe and community vibe.
You might have a new Viking with Adam here, because he hasn't said it yet, but I'll say it for him. He has bigger legs than me, so he has suffered from the same issues that you have had, and I've definitely seen him in person do the squat test on his own for different pairs of pants.
Constantly.
Yeah.
I did it for my wedding suit when all of us were getting fitted. So Banko here was in my wedding. We all went to get fitted together, and you bet you're behind. I had the blazer on. I was moving all around, making sure it would fit, move with me, full squat in the store, making sure I could hit some dance moves in it. Yeah, I'm it's a must. Like it's a must. Every time I put on any pair of clothing, I make sure it passes the squat test, and probably a good like twist or two.
Yeah, I do the same with it's not that big of a problem with upper sweaters and t-shirts for me, because you can always go a size up. But the problem I have with the pants is that if you go a size up, usually around the waist it gets too big, but then around the thighs it's too tight, or it gets absolutely too big around the waist and then it's perfect around the thighs. So it's a little bit where you kind of limits what pants and shorts you can wear, and that's where you come in and kind of do the squat test to just see if it is a little bit tight, is it stretchy, is it comfortable, and all that. So yeah, it's diving deep down into problems of people with big legs, but
hey, I'm here for it. You are speaking to me with every single thing you're running through. I identify with these problems. You can convince me to be a Viking. I love the branding. The weekly pillage is hilarious. And
thank you.
going off the beaten path a little bit here, has going down this route of the Viking branding, has it forced you to learn more about Swedish history and Viking history? Like, are you just catching yourself reading Wikipedias and biographies and different things just to become more knowledgeable?
Yeah, I'm starting to read a lot about Norse mythology, I'm, trying to learn these terms like the runic scripts. I'm trying to, because sometimes we try to write emails based off of, maybe we want to introduce something with a runic script, and then we want to find the meaning behind one of the runic scripts and see how that we could work that into an email, for example. And then I start reading about all these runic scripts and different names, and like Odin is the one of the gods in Norse mythology. So it's we read a lot about that. It's I mean, I still have a lot to learn, but it's I've definitely learned a lot since we started doing this, and just to gives you ideas as well. So just browse through that and get ideas, and so yeah, it's a big learning process. You learn a lot when you start a business and when you're trying to create a brand.
Is it more because it's with your brother and you guys are building this together? Is it half and half on the newsletter? Or are you doing more of the newsletter? Like, how is that kind of balance with working with your brother going?
My brother is probably doing about 80% of the newsletter. He is. I'm more kind of I'm handling right now more the product stuff. So I'm working right now on the packaging and working with the manufacturer and all that. He's mostly in charge of the newsletter, and he's an absolute, I think at least he's a genius when it comes to coming up with funny ideas. One example, I think I laughed out loud like really hard when I heard this. It's not gonna sound as funny now when I tell it afterwards, but it was really funny when he said it, and it was that we were talking about how it was difficult to build this brand and all that, and then he said, because building this Viking ship didn't come with IKEA instructions. And I thought that was hilarious, because IKEA always comes with the instructions and it always tells you exactly what to do, but you don't really know exactly what to do. And we were like, oh, there are no instructions here at all. It's just, build and test and figure it out. And I thought that was hilarious. So we put that in the email, and he comes up with jokes all the time that I think are great. So he kind of does that. And I'm kind of more, he has a connection with the logo and the names, and obviously figured that out. And while I do more the shorts and the packaging is currently what I'm focusing on.
Speaking of the lack of instructions, can you maybe give us a look into a couple places where you guys might have made a misstep in the process, or maybe you made a mistake and you needed to rebound from it or just find a new path? Because with any new business, I know that happens at some point.
We started almost right out of the gate with that. As soon as we'd done the testing of the demand, and we were like happy this is something that people might want to buy, we were like, all right, okay, now we need shorts. What do we do now? And so what we did was I just researched manufacturers. I wrote to one and said, we want a pair of shorts, and I explained in writing in the text, this is how we want it. And they sent us the shorts. No images, nothing, no like digital picture, nothing like that. Just a block of text is what they got. And then they didn't even say anything. So I don't know if they were the best manufacturer, but they didn't say, oh, this was difficult to understand. What do you mean here? So we sent that, and then we got a pair of shorts that were the worst shorts, I think. They were horrible. It was, the logo was too big. They weren't stretchy. They I don't even know if they were swim shorts. They kind of felt like these shorts that Muay Thai fighters have, kind of that. I don't know if you felt that material before, but kind of like that material. So we're like, oh, what do we do now? And that's how we kind of got into like, okay, we need something that kind of explains what it is we want here and kind of a design. So that's when we ended up with something called a tech pack, and that then found a designer on Fiverr. She's worked with a couple of brands. I don't know how much she's did, but she worked with a couple of brands like Polar F. Lauren and things like that, and did some designs for them. And she helped us create a tech pack that goes through, okay, these are the shorts, these are the measurements we want on the shorts, this is the material, and then she kind of said, oh, this is how the logo should be on the shorts, this is how the material of the waistband, things like that. And she just created a, I think, 10-page document. And then she had connections with manufacturers as well. So she got us in contact with the manufacturer, and then we sent that to the manufacturer and started working with them. So that's kind of how we had a massive misstep, and just had no idea what we were doing, and then kind of just built, like, tried to figure stuff out, research a little bit on Google. Google is a big friend that we have when we're building this business, you know, and that's kind of how we move forward. And that's pretty much every single step we do right now is kind of just test it, see, okay, that worked well or that didn't work well, and then iterate with a little bit of Google knowledge and a little bit of just silent, afternoons where you just sit and think. You don't do anything. You're just sitting on your couch and just thinking. It's like, what can I do better? What did I do wrong? And things like that. So that's kind of how it constantly is right now.
And I know you guys are still in the sort of the pre-order building the business stage. How long, like when did you actually start or launch, like looking for manufacturers, building the brand, building the newsletter? How long has that process been so far?
That process has actually been, I think we're about a year now. It's going not the fastest right now. We have it's been about a year. So he's working full time as well, and I'm working full time. So it's been like I said, not the fastest, but we are moving forward and it is going well. But it's just when we don't really know what we're doing, it takes a little bit of while to figure stuff out. And then once we actually have someone who can do, like, for example, the tech pack, then it takes a couple of weeks, like 2 weeks to do that. And then we didn't have a manufacturer, so we had to find a manufacturer. And then that took a couple of weeks, and then we had to talk with the manufacturer and then, make sure that they get the order correct and all that. And then we ordered that, and then they needed like a couple of weeks to do that. And then, they send it to us, we look at it, we test it, because we got a pair of shorts and then we tested the shorts. And then I was like, okay, we wrote down what we want. Then we had a meeting with our designer to adjust the tech pack. And then we sent it back to the manufacturer again with the new updated tech pack. And then they created a new product, an updated one, and then they sent it again to us. It's a lot of back and forth. And I wish it went faster. Maybe we can do it faster. But if I just tell them, like, they say we need, let's say, 3 weeks to manufacture this sample and then send it to you, and I say, I want you to do it in 1 week, I feel like I'm just creating like a bad environment where they're like, oh, he's just pushing us all the time. He's just, kind of being a dick about it, and he's not very nice to work with. So I just let them do whatever if they say, oh, I need 3 weeks, I need 4 weeks, whatever it is, then it's just all right. And then I get back to them after 3-4 weeks and then see how it's going if I haven't heard anything. But I wish it went faster. It's just with our current knowledge, I guess we can't do it faster while we're at the same time working. I'm working and he's working and all that. But we are planning to launch before, because we have a product now that's very, very close to being done. So we are planning on getting this on the market before the summer.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
How do you say it's sometimes frustrating. How do you practice and keep yourself level-headed and patient when you get in those tough times where you're like, this should be moving faster, I want this to move faster? I think a lot of people struggle with that, so just want to hear your perspective.
I don't know because I feel like I can't control it that much. I don't know what exactly goes into what they need to do in order to manufacture the shorts, or what the designer needs to do to create this tech pack, and what process they have to go through, because that's their expertise. So I kind of just feel like I have to accept whatever it is that they say. I mean, if they say something outrageous, like, oh, I need 6 months to create this, then I'm like, oh, that's a little bit long. But if they say something that I think sounds reasonable, then I kind of just accept it as it is, and, see it as one thing that I can't really control. So I handed the ball over to them. They are going to manufacture it, and they said it's going to be 3 weeks. And then after 3 weeks, if I haven't heard anything, then I just, reach out to them. And that's kind of just accept it, kind of, and just, leave it as it is. And if you trust them and you believe that they can deliver, then I don't really feel like I have anything to worry about. But I don't really know how, except, like I said, I can just accept it. That's the only way I can manage with the frustration. I think back about it as like, we've done so much, but at the same time, it's taking so much time. But then my mom told me, it's like, yeah, but I don't know if you can, I mean, can you really do it much faster? I mean, they say they have these delivery times for all this, they need, then the manufacturer's not just making ours, they're probably making other stuff as well. So I don't know if they probably need that time. And then I'm like, all right, 3 weeks sounds reasonable. And then, so just accept it if it sounds reasonable to you, just accept it and then leave it at that. And stuff takes longer than what you think anyway. So that's also one of the things I've learned. When I started, I was like, oh, in 6 months we're going to be up and running, and then like in 6 months we barely made it up to the starting line, and so it always takes longer than what you think it does. It's another big life lesson I've learned is take it one step at a time, and then it always takes longer than what you think it does.
100%. I can sympathize with that. Beyond just empathize, I can sympathize with that from building a couple products or services. For instance, we've been working on a project and what we do for, gosh, about a year. We're working on writing new elbow injury rehab guidelines. So I work in the baseball world, and we're working on writing a completely new rehab script for how pitchers can return from this surgery that happens constantly in baseball. And we have said probably for the past, I don't know, 6 months that we're about 3 months away from getting this done. We've probably actually said it since about last summer. We're constantly telling people like, oh, give us like 2 to 3 months, it'll be out there. Give us 2 to 3 months, it'll be out there. I mean, heck, we were on stage presenting at a massive seminar in December saying like, hey, in January, we're going to be releasing this to the public. And of course, I'm sure you deal with this constantly. You always feel like you're close. You always feel like you're 90% of the way done. But that last 10% or that last 5% just seems to be where things take so much longer because you want it to be perfect. This thing is your baby. Why would you ever put something out there that isn't perfect in your eyes? And it is very difficult to decide what is actually good enough because once it's out there, you can't do anything about it until you make your next production run or your version 2 or something like that. And I'm going to guess that's somewhat what you're dealing with now. I know, fingers crossed, everything comes out this summer, but right, like what if it comes back and it's not perfect? Like how in your mind, now time for the question, how in your mind will you decide our product is good enough for our Vikings and it can go out and we know that we can be proud of it and people can be proud wearing it?
I think that if the I don't know if you actually, because I kind of feel like it's something like where you're never, doesn't matter if you have like something that other people might think is a perfect product. I don't think you'll ever think that you have something that's perfect. There's always something you want to improve. There's always something you want to make better. But I think that as long as you have something that if you got this yourself as a product, would you be happy with it? Would you feel like that this is something that if not, if it's your business, let's say you order it from someone else, and you just get this as a product you ordered online, and it's from a business that you have no affiliation with except that you bought from them. If you get that and you get that as a presented to you in the packaging and in the shorts or whatever product is that you bought, if you get that to you, how would you feel like this is a good product that you could get? Is that something that you feel that you would be happy about if you were a customer of that business? That's kind of how I think about it. So I thought, for example, then the last pair of we just got now, this sample was the quality of it was perfect. I thought it was great. They were stretchy, they were comfortable. they send us a size or 2 sizes too small. They send us a medium when we actually need an extra large. But that was just a communication error. But the shorts were perfect. It's just that the logo, when we got it in the packaging, and when we opened it up, like the logo was already starting to come off a little bit. And I was like, if I got that from a brand that I just ordered online from, and the logo is already coming off a little bit before I even worn them, and then I, let's say, go swimming with them, or I run around on the beach with them, and then maybe sand gets in there and all that, the logo is going to be off after like 2 weeks, probably even less. So I was like, I can't accept this if, as a finished product. So that's when we was like, okay, we need to make it another iteration. Then we're looking at, okay, so the logo needs to be fixed. And then there were some other things that we talked about that we wanted to change. And then it's like, okay, so we'll change those small minor things. Then the next one that comes, if that one is, perfect, then we'll be happy with that. But as long as I think that you can see yourself as a customer getting this and not being like overly critical as you could be as an entrepreneur, and just being like this normal customer, who, just someone normal who orders just something and just just remove all this critical stuff that you have, like that has to be perfect, and just like, is a normal customer going to think that this is good enough? And then if it is, then I think that's good enough to start with. Doesn't mean that you stop there and don't improve it, but I think then it's good enough to move on and start selling it. And you can test it, like we did. I was down in Miami, and it was actually really cold that day in Miami. It was like, lower 70s or something. It was raining and all that, and the pool was ice cold, but I wanted to test sample of our swim shorts. So I just went in and swam laps in there and just played around and all that, just to test the swim shorts. And if you can test them and they pass that test, and they meet the basic standards, then I think you're good to launch. I don't know if that's what other people would do, or if that helps them, but that's kind of how I think about it. I just, would a normal person think this is good enough, and then use that as a starting point. I mean, they even have the Silicon Valley people that talk about that you should do an MVP, like minimum viable product, and they talk about, oh, it barely even has to work. I mean, there were people who, I think it was a movie about BlackBerry, where they just brought a phone that was literally just the case. The phone didn't even work. It was just the case of a phone. They brought that to a sales meeting to get sales, and talking about definition of minimum viable product, and then you use that to get their first couple of sales. And I think you need to have a little bit of that kind of approach to it when you start with your first product. But yeah, just keep it, is it good enough? Doesn't have to be perfect, kind of like that. That's how
and I'm curious, in that process of testing and trying to take the normal customer's perspective, you hear a lot of people that write books, articles, etc. They'll be deep in the weeds of writing it, and they're like, all right, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a step back for a day or two, so my mind is not thinking about this all the time. I feel like it might be harder for a business and a product. I feel like that might always be on your mind. But is there any practice in that, of like you taking a step away from the product for a day or two that you've been analyzing, and so that you come with a fresh set of eyes and kind of have a perspective of a normal customer in a sense?
I think I do that unconsciously a lot. Not that I do it intentionally, but when I go out, because I go out of flying sometimes, and sometimes it's you've been on a flight for, let's say, 12 hours, and you're not really thinking about it when you're on the flight, and then you're exhausted when you get to the hotel, and then you just go to sleep. And then you wake up the next morning, and maybe then you have to go almost immediately back and out flying again. So then it might be where you have 24 hours up to 3-4 days where you just literally just work, sleep, eat, and then repeat. And when I do that, I don't think about the business at all, and that's where I think I kind of reset a little bit, and then when I come back, I was like, oh, then you get kind of a fresh set of eyes on it. But
I was going to ask that question in a slightly different way. I was going to say, how many flight hours have you logged thinking specifically about Nordic dudes? I was I'm sure flying a plane requires extreme focus, but I wasn't sure if you catch yourself like the same way you do driving a car where you like space out and you think about everything else going on in your life and you realize, "Oh my God, what have I been doing for the past 5 minutes driving down the highway?" I figured that's happened to you a time or two in the big blue sky.
yeah, it can have, especially up in cruise. If you're sitting up in cruise and you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and you're at 38,000 feet or wherever it might be, and you just have there's nothing going on. You're just sitting there with your partner or your pilot, and he's not, you're not currently talking, because you don't talk all the time, and then you just you know start thinking about stuff and just drift away a little bit, and then kind of moments. So they happen a lot. It's especially when you're up in cruise and not a lot is happening. But I think that happens to everyone.
I do have a really crappy question for you, and hopefully I don't get made fun of too much for this one. But I need to know as as a Viking, as someone deep in the Nordic culture, how do you feel about the How to Train Your Dragon movies?
uh, Talking about that, actually, I don't think I've seen those movies. I haven't seen them. I can't say too much about it, unfortunately. It's those animated movies, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they're incredible. And
I,
they're coming out with a I don't even know what it's called, like a CGI version of it. I don't know the proper phrasing in the media world of what the new version is going to be called. But yeah, it's they have like three animated movies and now they're remaking it into whatever, like all the computer generated imaging. Live action, that's what it's called. They're doing a live action version of it.
I now that you say it, I should probably watch those. Maybe I could get some good information out of that. But I know which movies, like what the movies are. I've heard about them. It's just I haven't seen them. I don't watch a lot of animated movies anymore, unfortunately. I was part of the Ice Age, Toy Story, that kind of those movies.
Oh,
But
we're the same age. We're both 31, so we're all in the same boat with that.
yeah, but I'll have to look at it, and then I'll get back.
Date idea. You and your girlfriend can just do a three movie marathon. Watch all three in a row.
She loves animated movies, so she loves Shrek and all that. So she'll probably like the idea of watching those movies.
I love
He's
How
just
to Train Your Dragon. Absolutely love How to Train Your Dragon. Banko, how many times did we watch How to Train Your Dragon when we were roommates?
at least 5 times, at least.
Yeah, and this is over the course of like 1 year of college. I think we watched it together like one rainy day or something like that. Then like girlfriends came over, watched it again, probably watched it again with somebody else like 2 weeks later. Next thing you know, we've seen How to Train Your Dragon like 5 times in a month.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Getting back on the serious note now. Generally, we do the fun questions at the end. I do have a curious question. I think a lot of people struggle doing side hustles, starting businesses, posting on social media, etc., in the fear of what are other people going to say about me? What are other people going to think about me? Did that thought process go through your head when you started on this journey, and when you thought about this idea, and how did you handle that?
Absolutely. That that has been a big part of. I've had plenty of people tell me that it's not going to work. You don't know what you're doing. The by the way, people who have absolutely no idea or have never started a business. Many of them tell me this. You shouldn't do this. You should instead create an app. You should create a digital software business, or something similar to Facebook, or some gaming app or something like that. And these are people that maybe are sometimes very close to you. So not, they don't say it all the time, but I've had both my parents have told me that question, oh, do you really think that's a good idea? I mean, oof, are you gonna make it? Is this, I mean, you're gonna spend so much time and money on this, and then you're probably gonna fail. And so I think everyone experiences that. And I guess the only way you deal with that is I guess, like Hormozy, I think, said something like this, that they are, for every day that they say that, they are right until one day they're not. And that one day is, I guess, something you need to work towards. And sometimes they might be even say stuff that is true at that time, and it might be something that you could do to make your business even better, because sometimes people say stuff that is not, that is actually valid advice or valid commentary on what you're currently doing. And then you might, so I think you listen to it, but take it whatever, if they just say, oh, it's not going to work, I think that's a bad idea, then I would just kind of just start forgetting about that. And that, which I think can be difficult sometimes, but as good as you can, just try to prove them wrong and just use it as fuel to make your business better. And even if it's valid advice, just use that and implement that valid advice into your business, and try to make it better, and use it as fuel, even though it's not always easy. I mean, it sucks sometimes, but it's the way. Sometimes it takes time to express your vision and your idea into, I mean, you're creating, essentially, when you start business, you're creating something out of nothing. So I understand that some people might say that they don't think it's a good idea because they can't really see or think what it is that you're thinking, and you need time in order to make whatever vision or idea you have into reality. And that process, in between that process, is where I think all that criticism comes, and that's where you got to use it as fuel or forget about it. But I would use it as fuel to power you, to make you better and more efficient as an entrepreneur.
Going deeper on that same concept, how do you separate what is noise from what is constructive?
One first thing that I listen to or that I look at is what people, what the person who's actually says it, what they've done in the past. So if, like I said, if I have, someone, an old friend or something, who tells me, oh, this is not a good idea, I don't think you should do this, this is not going to work, and no one's interested in this, but that person has never started a business, has no experience in starting a business, is not even chafing, doesn't even have big legs, then I kind of see that as, okay, so, that's just your personal opinion, doesn't really mean that anything. And then after that, I would, if the person actually has experience, then I would actually listen to more what they have to say. But at the end of the day, I think it's just what the market says that so if you get positive, if everyone, even a person who has, I don't know, made a business that's, sold for $50 million, let's say, but you have customers buying products from you constantly, and they're saying they love this and they think it's great and it helps me solve all these problems. But that entrepreneur who sold a business for $50 million says that it's not going to work. I still wouldn't listen to them that much, or maybe not at all, because the market or the sales that I'm doing say otherwise. So I think that the market is the ultimate determinator of what works, and then I would go to what someone who's already done something similar or has experience with this, and then the person who doesn't know anything, I just would not listen to them. And then I would go to the person who has experience, and then the market is the final thing. If market likes it, I do it. If the market doesn't like it, then I need to figure something else out.
What's been the most constructive negative feedback you've gotten in this process from somebody?
Um, I think that my dad, he's he comes with a lot of he's this kind of A-type personality, so he could be a little bit, he could be quite rough. I mean, he says what he thinks and he says the truth, but it could be sometimes very harsh, and it could sometimes be you're being a little bit bulldozed. So he's been one of those who said, I don't think that this is going to work, but at the same time he's come with some, he wants me to pass and make this become a great thing. But I don't think he's indicated that he doesn't believe in it that much until I actually have something more sustainable to prove other than pre-orders. So he's come with some great advice where he says things like, have you done market research? He asked in the beginning, like, do you even know if people are interested in this? But he says that probably the best negative advice he has said is, it's a difficult one. I can't say a specific one that I can think of top of my head, but he's come with great stuff, and I can't think of anything right now.
No,
Uh,
that's fine. I mean, I mean, you actually have in your mind somebody that has given you feedback or asked critical questions that made you think, which I think is a very good benefit. I mean, a lot of people get negative questions or doubting questions and they just don't use them at all. And it sounds like, again, it goes back to depending on the person that it's coming from, their experience, what they've gone through, but you're actually taking those questions, actually thinking through them and trying to apply it where it is necessary and needed. And it's helped you, it sounds like, especially from your dad.
And
yeah,
on the other side of that, positivity, constant positivity often can leave you with I's not dotted, T's not crossed. You maybe haven't played through every scenario, and we on our side, and even in this conversation, we've spent so much time on the negative, but oftentimes spending time in the negative forces you to answer questions and make sure you leave no stone unturned. It's almost as if positivity can lead to problems down the line, even though everything can feel like sunshine and rainbows in the moment. So I'm sure you've had to go through some serious shit to get to something that you're really proud of, as opposed to everybody hyping you up in the process for then you for then for you to get something back and be like, well, this is nowhere close to where we actually want to be.
I was actually going to say that I think it's good that when you're flying on a high, especially if you've been doing it for too long, that someone comes down and just smacks you down on the ground, and just gets you back on you know, thinking a little bit clearly, and just like, oh, have you thought about this? Like this, it could be a problem, and have you done this? And my dad has been a consistent person in my life, or in me and my brother's life, who's been highlighting things that are not maybe always fun to hear, but are good things to hear, and things that we might, want to consider. So in that sense, it's he's been great. Some stuff is not always, very constructive that we hear, but most of the time it's, he wants us to succeed, and he doesn't say that because he wants to be mean. He just, he wants us to realize that you're on a tough path, and it's not sunshine and rainbows all the time. It's dark clouds and stormy weather ahead.
But it's nothing you haven't dealt with before. And I want to know how good it feels when you get to turn around and say, not just you're wrong, but you are wrong and here's why.
Oh, how good it feels for me to say that to
Yeah,
someone.
yeah. When you get to respond to somebody that has come up with critical feedback and you have weathered that storm before, you've gone through it, you've assessed whatever, this is why we have this hemline, or this is why we use this material, or why we've done marketing this way. And maybe someone had come with that hate, but you've gone through the stormy weather. You've gone through the shit, and you are now able to say, like, I hear you, but you're wrong, and this is why.
Uh, I think that I mean I don't know if I feel, because I feel like I'm so inexperienced in both business and in aviation. I know that I'm not at zero, but at the same time I feel like I'm so inexperienced. So even if someone comes and tells me you're wrong and blah blah, and I know that I'm right, I'm not, because I don't want to, I guess, embarrass myself. So I don't want to go out and just be like, it's like, yeah, but you're wrong and this is because of this, and then they come and turn around and just say something that's even more, it's like, oh, I didn't think about that at all, and then they kind of put me into place. So I'm more a little bit, I guess, the careful person when it comes to stuff like that. So I don't know if uh I mean, I don't know if I take uh, great pleasure in saying that, oh, how good it feels, so good to be right. I mean, maybe, internally I'm like, it's like, oh, this feels great. This felt good to say that they're wrong. But I don't know if I would ever express that outward to someone else, because I'm scared that they're going to come back with something that I didn't know. So I'm always, I guess, a little bit careful with, just because you can never reverse anything what you've already done. Like if I come in and say you're wrong, you're an idiot or something, and then that person turns out to be right, especially if it's let's say in aviation, if it's an instructor or superior, then I'm gonna have living hell with that person for the foreseeable future. So I'm very careful with saying you're wrong. I might say, but have you thought about this? Do you think, like, I thought about this and I think maybe that's better? Or if it's not better, can you tell me why? I don't know, that's kind of how I think about it a little bit. Because I never know when that person's going to come back and, haunt me or anything, like, does that make sense? You understand what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely does, and it's probably the smarter approach to take, because everyone and anyone can be a customer at any point in time. So keeping and don't burn bridges. In a more lighthearted, fun way, you mentioned that sometimes you get feedback from people that don't suffer from the chafing problem because they don't have big legs. Have you ever responded with "mix in a leg day"?
With it what?
Mix in a leg day to these people that don't have big legs.
No, I've never responded with that. Maybe I should try that once. Well, you come and train leg day with me. I could say something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly.
It could be a
No,
future marketing idea. You could start throwing in like leg day of the week or something like that. Maybe throw in like a Viking workout or something of you and other people in the community doing it in their Nordic Dudes shorts.
we've actually been working on a lead magnet for something like that. We haven't. We've been working on it for quite a while, so we haven't. It hasn't really reached the level that we wanted to reach. But we're thinking about having like a leg workout as like kind of a lead magnet, like leg workout for people who chafe. But it's not something that's finished yet. It's very still in building stages.
I
But
think that could be a fun one. Really, like it's another way. How do you expand your brand? And here we are now telling you ideas or things that maybe you could run through. I just I'm excited about your brand and the way you can grow these things. And I love what Banko said there with the hey, mix in a leg day. But yeah, like you guys have big legs. You're building a brand for people with big legs. Why not lean into the big leg community? Like this is how we get this booty pump. This is how we have these massive ham hock hamstrings that you don't know what to deal with. I mean, you guys have experience in the hockey world. You can give credence to the workouts that you've been doing for years to skate down the ice faster than anybody could ever fathom.
Yeah, it's there's lots of we there's lots of ideas that we had that we wanted to implement, you know, like lead magnets for specific parts of our target market, like for example, ice hockey players or people who go to the gym or you know, football players or whatever it might be. It's just something we haven't done quite yet because of, you know, our like we're still exploring and you know, learning about our target market as well. So I feel like our bit, you know, our group of people or our target market size that we know of yet is not big enough yet to, you know, sector into just specifically ice hockey players. But it's definitely something we thought about that and that we want to, and we might start with ice hockey players or, you know, uh, I go to the gym a lot, so people go to the gym, for example. But yeah, there's so many great ideas that, you know, you get, and I might look into that with the, you know, the lead magnet with the big legs. I think that's might go back. We haven't worked on that lead magnet for a while now because we just got frustrated where just we built something like, oh, but it's not good enough, and you know, maybe we should add this, and then we kind of just like you know, started working on a different lead magnet, and so maybe we should go back to that and kind of
Hmm.
refine now that we have a fresh set of eyes now when we haven't worked with it for like a couple of months, like 2-3 months or whatever it was.
I have a I have a question that's probably reoccurring to most of our listeners, and you've probably thought about this a good bit. How can you measure success right now when you don't have product on the market right now? And then maybe once you do have product on the market, it's going to be slow growth. I I'd love to the look into your mind or maybe you and your brother's minds for how you guys can feel successful on the daily, or maybe once you get started looking beyond the bottom line of your actual accounting to figure out or determine what is success to us as a brand.
Uh, So I think that when it comes to success, I feel like it's really easy to just say like say success is something like brand awareness, which I think is very vague and maybe doesn't, you know, mean that much. Is to say, oh, we want to increase brand awareness, which we want, but I feel like that's not something that's quantifiable and that you can, you know, you can see daily progress on. So something that we use a lot is just the number of email subscribers that we get to our email list. So if we get one more, you know, one day or every day, it's not every day at this point, but you know, let's say one every week or two every week, then we see that, okay, that's a win, and that means that we are, you know, more people are getting to know about our business and our brand. And if we at the same time start moving forward with, you know, we start making a little bit of progress with the shorts as well, and they're getting closer to being finished, then we see that as success. And yeah, just the email list and just getting closer to a finished product. And those are kind of where I think they are quantifiable and we can actually see progress on like a graph or something like that if we were to map it out.
Banko, I wasn't sure if you had anything. I was living in your Alex Hermosi silence for a minute. So Gabriel, here's a look into this. Uh, I am a I'm certainly a talker. I will not shut up. And Banko and I were talking about podcast strategy for a while. And when you brought up Alex Hermosi, I think Banko practices in the Church of Alex Hermosi. That is his Jesus. He loves Alex Hermosi. So he taught me one of the powerful teachings of Alex Hermosi and the power of silence when you're listening and to wait a little bit before you respond. So I was trying to practice that there and see if somebody else wanted to get involved. But I thought your answer was awesome. Yes, it's so hard to measure success, but there are many ways that it can be done. And success means so much more than just a bottom line. And there's victories that we can find everywhere. So little ways that we can stack those or find them is very powerful in a growing business. So thanks for that insight.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I try to give my most valuable advice, so I appreciate you thought it was valuable.
Definitely.
Adam, I don't have any more serious questions
Let's get into the fun stuff.
So I think as long as you don't have any, I can dive in. I have two unserious kind of fun questions.
Let's dive in.
They're kind of conspiracy theory-ish questions, both having to do with the pilot and flying planes at very high levels. The first one, based on the view at 38,000 feet, is the Earth flat in your eyes?
No.
Okay,
Confirmed.
confirmed. And then the second question is, have you ever seen a UFO, extraterrestrial life while you're flying? Something that like didn't make any sense, like flew erratically, that didn't make you, it made you question that it was anywhere human created?
Not yet, but what I have seen is I've seen a fair share of shooting stars and I've seen a fair share of satellites. So when the sun is at a specific angle and the satellite is coming in, you can sometimes see a reflection from the sun onto the satellite and then into the aircraft. So I've seen what are the Elon Musk's Starlink. They have like 7 satellites that go in one row or whatever it is, 6 or 7 satellites. So I've seen those like 2-3 times when they come and go around the Earth, but I haven't seen anything UFO like.
So maybe a good follow-up to that is, what are some of the super cool things that you have seen while flying? Have you seen the Northern Lights? You said shooting stars. I'd love to know some of those awesome things that you've just experienced while in the air.
So I've seen, I did a flight just after Christmas from Toronto to Hong Kong.
And you saw Santa.
Yes. No, I didn't. I saw Northern Lights when we just were coming in over Canada and into Alaska. But the thing with at least those Northern Lights was that they weren't really visible. You could see something up in the sky, but once you took a picture, you kind of edited it a little bit, you could really enhance the Northern Lights a lot in the picture. But when you're actually looking at it, it was kind of like there's something moving there, but it wasn't like, you see on the picture, it was just like all these green, bluish colors. It wasn't anything like that. But that was pretty cool. So I have a couple of Northern Lights pictures at whatever altitude that was, 35, 36,000 feet. And then I seen as well, I flew in Italy before I flew in the US. I flew a lot in Italy and I flew down to Catania in Sicily. And right next to Catania, there's a volcano. And I saw once when that volcano, maybe it wasn't erupting, but there was a lot of smoke and cloud coming out. So it was kind of the mountain and then this massive kind of big cloudish thing that coming up. And that was pretty cool as well. But I think I've seen some lava as well when I fly close to that mountain. You can like see a little bit and you see a little bit of lava in there, but those are probably the coolest things that I can think of right now. That I've seen when I'm flying.
And maybe the follow-up, do you want to explore space if given the opportunity?
I thought I don't want to go to Mars, I don't think, but I think it would be cool to go to space. However, I think that I don't know if I would make the cut to be an astronaut because that's another set of skills. But if they make commercial space travel available to people soon and it's at a reasonable price, I think you could do it now for like 100 or 200 grand with like Virgin Galactic or something like that. But that's a little bit too much for me right now.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Give it a month or two.
Yeah. Probably maybe 3 maximum. But if it comes at a reasonable price, then I'd love to try something like that. I want to feel how it is to be, I guess, weightless and in orbit. I think that would be pretty cool. people talk about when they've been up there for a long time, that they don't use their neck muscles. So when they come back to the ground, or back into earth, they are shocked by how the neck kind of, like the just like the head has weight, and they're not used to carrying that weight because they've been in space for several months. And I'd love to experience, like, maybe not experience that, but that probably a pretty weird experience, probably the legs as well. You haven't been walking for months either, so you know, probably weird to go for a walk as well.
But then you might not need NordicDudes swim shorts anymore because your legs would get smaller. So maybe that's not good for the brand.
No, it's probably not good. It's not good for the brand. Hopefully get like these chicken legs,
Right. Banko, you got any others?
No, that's all I got. Just thank you very much for joining us, Gabriel. I appreciate it. I want to give you the opportunity to cover anything that we didn't cover, shout out any websites, newsletters, social medias, etc. before we sign off here.
No, I mean, it was great talking with you guys. It was awesome. You two are two awesome dudes, and I thought it was a great chat. And the only thing I really have to say is that we have the website NordicDudes.com, where you can sign up to our newsletter, the Weekly Pillage. We send weekly emails every Thursday, and we just talk about the journey of building the business and funny, random Viking stories and jokes is pretty much what we're doing there. So if you want to be a Viking, you can come there, and we'll send you an email every week.
Perfect. Well, thanks a ton, Gabriel. This was a blast. It was awesome to get to know you, get to know about the business, the journey, and of course, flying planes. This has been an all-encompassing episode for sure. Looking forward to Nordic Dudes officially launching, hopefully, fingers crossed, this coming summer, and we can get these thick legs and a pair of shorts that actually fit and prevent chafing. So, great things to come. We highly encourage everyone to go out and check out NordicDudes.com, get in touch with Gabriel. He's pretty active on X or Twitter, so go find him there. And the Instagram is growing, so we got fun stuff on the horizon. For those of you who want to get in touch with us, listen to Banko's outro. Until next time, see y'all later. Thanks for tuning in.
Hi everyone, Grant here. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you could like, share, and subscribe, we'd greatly appreciate it. Also, if you think you or someone you know has a good life story to tell, we are always open to guest suggestions. You can send those suggestions to our email, tworkpod@gmail.com. Thanks again for the support.